Hello and welcome everyone to the Environment Primer series of Drishti IAS. My name is Pragya, and in today's episode of Environment Primer, we are going to discuss a very pressing issue that if not addressed, then it can lead to the elimination of human life forms on Earth. The title of our today's discussion is Problem of Land Degradation. In this discussion, we are going to study about what is land degradation. We are also going to see causes of land degradation. We are also going to see the impact of land degradation, and we are also going to observe some of the measures that are taken nationally and internationally to combat land degradation. And in the end, we are going to see a practice question for your prelims examination and a practice question for your mains examination. So if I talk about the background of our today's topic, recently data has been released by the United Nations Convention on Combating Desertification, and the figures are shocking. So from a period of 2015 to 2019, India has almost lost 30 million hectare of its reported land that was fertile. So this is a huge loss, because if I see it in percentage, or if I talk about it in percentage, this loss is 9.45% as in 2019. So this is the base period 2015 to 2019 for which the data was collected, and 2019 was the reporting year, and this loss is pegged at 9.5%. That means we are losing our arable or fertile land at an unprecedented rate. So this brings us to a question that what is this phenomenon of land degradation? How is it adversely impacting us? Let us analyze. So if I talk about the phenomenon of land degradation in very simple terms, it means that the soil loses its productive capacity. The biological, ecological capabilities of a fertile soil is lost. Desertification also is an advanced form of land degradation, and by which fertile land becomes desert. So there was this theory that India is slowly turning into a huge big desert. So what is this desertification? It is completely, turning off a fertile land into a desert due to the process of land degradation. It leads to the advancement of sand from the desert to the adjoining regions. So what are we doing due to this deforestation activities, due to overgrazing of our cattle, etc., many such human activities, as well as natural activities, as well as human activities, we are losing our fertile land at an unprecedented rate. And this is not only going to impact our today's generation, but also our future generation. So if I talk about land degradation by a pictorial image, this is what is exactly a land desertation or land degradation. So this was a fertile land which, due to loss of monsoon or due to many other reasons such as deforestation or overgrazing activities, climate change, many other reasons, we'll study about it in our further slides, the causes of land degradation. So this fertile land has almost degraded and converted to a land looking like this. So just imagine if the land on the earth on which we are living becomes like this, like so arid, so dry, without any nutrients, how are we going to survive on this earth? How are we going to address the food demands? How are we going to manage the worst impacts of climate change on us? So this is a very pressing environmental issue, and this needs to be talked about. And if I talk about desertification through a pictorial image, so as I was explaining to you before, see, this is a fertile land. This is a fertile land, and this land has converted into a desert. So this is the process of desertification. And this theory that India is slowly turning into a huge big desert is unfortunately coming true. India is facing the problem of land degradation and desertification both at the same time. Now let us analyze what are the causes of this land degradation. Why are we facing this land degradation? So let us analyze. So if I talk about some of the causes of land degradation, the first and the foremost cause is loss of soil cover. So see, what happens is, supposedly this is your topsoil, okay, and this topsoil gets washed away, it gets washed away or destroyed due to various factors, due to overflow of water during monsoons, or due to, loss of vegetation cover, loss of deforestation, you are cutting the trees. So what happens is, this slowly, this topsoil, which is the nutritious part of the soil essential for growing crops, this gets eroded, and this process is known as soil erosion. And this process of soil erosion is leading to land degradation. In fact, it is responsible for 11.01% of the desertification in the country. So just imagine that you are promoting deforestation, you are, reducing your forest covers, especially if we talk about India. We are losing our forest covers in the name of development. So we are developing unprecedentedly to accommodate our population, but what in turn is happening is, we are losing our forest covers, and this in turn lead to desertification. Cutting forest adversely affects the soil and causes degradation. As urbanization increases, the demand for resources is also increasing. So what are we doing? Population is on boom. There is rapid urbanization. People don't want to live in the villages. We want to live in an urban city. We want to have a sustainable lifestyle. But what are we doing? We are not developing the land, or we are not using our resources sustainably. And that is why there was a need for this sustainable development goals. That means you will protect your existing resources for your future generation. And we need to have this sustainable model of development. Otherwise, we are going to face some of the worst impacts, both on climate as well, and as well as on land as well. Then the second cause of land degradation is the vegetation degradation. So what is this vegetation degradation? Vegetation is defined as the temporary or permanent reduction in the density, structure, species, composition, or productivity of the vegetation cover. If I talk to you about this in a very simple term, it means loss of vegetation cover. Loss of vegetation cover. So this loss of vegetation cover is also responsible for desertification or land degradation. It is found to be responsible for 9.15% of desertification in the country. So just imagine, 11.01% we already lost due to soil erosion. Now we are losing 9.15% due to loss of our precious vegetation cover due to deforestation. And it is one of the significant causes of land degradation. Then there are other causes as well, such as water erosion. If I talk about water erosion, what does this mean? That due to the overflow of monsoon, or sometimes you might have heard in the news also that we are receiving unprecedented rainfall. And so what happens is, the topmost soil, as I was explaining, is eroded due to water, is carried away by the water and flooding. So this in turn leads to the loss of our fertile soil. Then there is wind erosion also. Wind erosion is also responsible for soil erosion. Wind erosion is also responsible for bringing sand from the desert area to fertile area and increasing the desertification. Then there is this threat of climate change. There is this climate change impacts as well. What is climate change doing? For example, there is an fertile land, and if it becomes non-fertile, or if it is degraded, or if it becomes a desert, then it will lose its capacity to absorb carbon dioxide, and this in turn will lead to the greenhouse gas emission, which in turn is responsible for global warming. So that is why I'm saying that climate change impacts is also, there is a significant impact of climate change on land as well, and it is leading to land degradation. Now let us understand what are the impacts of land degradation. So the first and the foremost impact is the environmental impact, which I am talking about. If I talk about the environmental impact, it leads to loss of fertile soil, it leads to loss of nutritious soil, it leads to loss of nutrients, it leads to water increase in water salinity, it pollutes the surface groundwater and the surface water as well. So this is some of the most important environmental impacts of this land degradation. Then there is impacts on human health, as I was talking about, if we continue to lose our land at this unprecedented rate, where we will live? We need food, right? And for growing food, you need fertile land, you need fertile soil, other such diseases. So this is what is happening due to land degradation on human health. And it is projected by United Nations that land degradation will impact 750 million people by 2050. So this is a major impact of land degradation, that it is going to impact 750 million by 2050. And if we really want to have sustainable development, then we need to speed up by our efforts. We need to fulfill our 2030 targets. Otherwise, you cannot even imagine the worst impacts we are going to face, our future generation is going to face. Then there is climate change impacts as well. Land degradation, as I was explaining to you before also, it loses the ability of the land to absorb carbon dioxide. Degradation happens and the fertile land loses its capacity to absorb carbon dioxide, and this in turn leads to global warming. Then rights of indigenous people. So there are some people who are completely dependent on the land. There are tribal peoples, they are already reeling under the climate change. They are also not aware of the impacts of the climate change. So what is this happening if we lose our land, or if the tribal people lose their land? First of all, they'll lose their resources, natural resource, they will lose their livelihood, they'll start starving out due to the shortage of food, and they won't be able to fight the worst impacts of climate change. Now let us see some of the measures which we have taken at both international and national level to protect our land. So if I talk about the international initiatives, the first initiative is the United Nations Convention on Combating Desertification, or the UNCCD. So this was enacted in the year 1994. Its main aim was to reduce land degradation and to protect the land from desertification. And it is the first legally binding agreement to combat the adverse effects of land degradation, droughts and desertification. Then there is the Bond Challenge. Bond Challenge is very important to restore our already degraded land. It aims to restore 350 million hectare land by 2030. Then there is this Great Green Wall. It was introduced in the year 2007 by the African Union to protect or to restore the land degradation in Africa, happening in Africa, and also to generate green jobs. So this is also a great initiative taken by the African Union, which was taken place in the year 2007 to restore the degraded land. So all of these initiatives are aimed at just one thing: to protect the land as well as to restore the land which we have already degraded by human activities. Now let us see some of the national initiatives that are taken by our Indian Parliament. So the first initiative is the National Afforestation Program. This was launched in the year 2000, and this is implemented by the Ministry of Environment and Forest, etc. So this ministry helps in the implementation of this National Afforestation Program. So what are we trying to do? We are trying to replant the trees. For example, there is this development work going on, and we need to remove some of the forest area for such development. So what we'll do, instead of, we'll remove the forest area, okay, because we need development as well. We are having population, we need to increase our land for sustaining our ever growing population. So what we'll do, we'll plant the trees, like whatever we have destroyed now, we'll plant it somewhere else. So this is afforestation. And not only this, we are increasing tree plantation initiatives as well. For example, you must have heard also that in certain judgments, the court also asked the people, or to penalize the people, they asked to do community service. They asked to plant the trees which they have cut. So all of this is aimed to increase afforestation. Then there is National Action Program to combat desertification, a very important plan that was launched in the year 2001, and it helps the India to achieve or to restore the land that has already been degraded. Then there is National Mission on Green India. This was launched in the year 2014. Again, an important mission to restore our already degraded land. So these were some of the national initiatives that we are taking as a country to reduce the impact of land degradation. And this initiative, National Mission of Green India, also talks about restoring the diminished forest covers, like whatever forest covers that are diminishing in India due to the developing activity, due to the deforestation. We are trying to restore that forest cover of India. So all of these missions are very important if you talk about the affirmative actions to prevent land degradation and to restore the land which has degraded by human activities. With this, we come to a conclusion of our today's discussion. We have seen what is land degradation. We have also seen what is desertification. We have also seen that slowly, obviously, not only India, this is a global phenomenon that we are losing our fertile lands. The fertile lands are turning into deserts. So this is what is actually happening. And there are various international and national measures also that the countries, and also at national level also, and they are coming together at international level also and taking initiatives to protect the land. But what we need to do is, we need to increase our affirmative action on the climate change. We need to achieve our 2030 targets. We need to achieve the sustainable development goals which we are trying to achieve by 2030. We need to shift to natural resources. We need to rethink about the carrying capacity of our regions. We need to rework our population that is booming. So we are in need of taking all of these affirmative action policies, and that is how we'll be able to avoid the worst impacts of climate change, as well as we'll be able to protect our lands. The first and the foremost policy on which we can concentrate is afforestation. Afforestation is very important if we want to save our land from degradation. Now let us see a practice question for your prelims examination. So the question is, consider the following statements. Your statement number 1 is, the UN Convention to Combat Desertification states that desertification means land degradation in arid, semi-arid and dry humid areas. Your statement number 2 is, India aims to reduce desertification by 2030. Which of the following statements given above are correct? Your options are, option A is only 1, option B is only 2, option C is both 1 and 2, and option D is none of the above. Now let us see. Kindly drop your answers in the comment box below. Now let us see a practice question for your mains examination. So the question is, explain the reasons for decline of land and discuss the conservation efforts. So firstly, you will explain what is land degradation. You will explain what is desertification. You will also explain the impacts of land degradation, which I have discussed in my discussion today. Then you are also going to write the international initiatives and the national initiatives in 1122 line, as I have explained you in my discussion today, that there is this United Nations Convention on to combat desertification. Then there is initiatives, other initiatives we are also taking. Then you will talk about the national initiatives which we are taking, the afforestation efforts which we are taking, and you can conclude holistically that land is important for human survival and we need to save our land if we want human life to sustain on earth. So you can conclude very holistically by stating the advantages of having fertile land. I hope this session was insightful for you. If you have any feedback regarding this session, kindly drop it in the comment box below. If you liked today's video and found this discussion to be helpful, kindly like the video and subscribe to our channel for more such updates. Thank you.